Chapter 11. Boom, boom, boom. What had Milo been dreaming? Oh yeah, a surreal montage of fedora-wearing shadows pursuing him through a meandering maze of movie sets, the action narrated by the disembodied voice of Rod Serling doing his best impression of a film noir detective who'd accidentally wandered into a Fellini film. He had just cornered and unmasked his mysterious pursuer, who turned out to be a stack of unsold Storm of Steel 3 scripts, wearing a trench coat and method acting as a mysterious stranger. When something rudely promoted him from REM sleep to reluctant consciousness. Boom, boom, boom! What was that sound? It was persisting with the subtlety of a Joel Silver action sequence. Milo sat bolt upright, momentarily disoriented. Oh yeah, the office, Milo's home for wayward dreams and spinal injuries. Boom, boom, boom! I'm coming! Milo croaked with a voice like sandpaper. He rolled off the couch, stumbling to his feet. He made his way to the door, his skeleton rearranging itself into a more comfortable configuration. The chair was still wedged under the handle from the night before. He yanked it away just as another round of knocking began, flinging the door open to see a less than impressed Poppy standing on the other side. She looked him over. Please tell me you didn't sleep in yesterday's clothes. He opened his mouth to respond, but all that came out was a strangled croak that sounded like a laryngitis-ridden bullfrog. Poppy wrinkled her nose. When's the last time you showered? Milo grabbed her by the arm and hauled her into the office. I'm being stalked. Stalked? Like celery? Like Cape Fear? Fatal Attraction? Single White? I get it. Milo sidled over to the window and peered out the blinds. His fiendish fedora follower was nowhere in sight. This isn't like the time you thought Steven Spielberg was following you, is it? Poppy asked. Well, he was, Milo said. Yeah, but he just wanted to return your wallet. You left in the concession. No, this is someone in a fedora and trench coat. He, her, it has been watching me for days. I've seen them at least 4 times now. Poppy sighed and opened the door, beckoning with her manicured hand for him to follow. Follow me, Aronofsky. They made their way outside, Milo trailing after her. They crossed the lot, weaving between trailers and equipment carts. Together they approached Soundstage 7. Poppy heaved open the heavy door and gestured inside. Inside was a sea of fedoras and beige trench coats. Behold your stalker. Stalkers, Poppy said. What in the name of Orson Welles' wine commercials is going on here? Milo asked. A harried-looking PA scurried up to them, clutching her clipboard. Oh, good. You're here. We're about to start the blocking for scene 27. Milo blinked. I'm sorry, what? The Maltese fedora? The PA said. Milo shook his head. A noir comedy about a detective who communicates exclusively in hard-boiled metaphors and dame-related innuendos. He's allergic to shadows, but for some reason he works exclusively at night. And what does that have to do with me? Milo asked. I've been waiting for hungover man who's lost all sense of hope for an hour now, the PA said. So if that's not you, scram. Looks like your mysterious stalker has an alibi, Poppy said with a snap of her gum. Unless you think he moonlights as an extra between bouts of cryptic lurking. Milo's shoulders sagged in relief. Of course. It all made sense now. Well, as much sense as anything ever made in Hollywood. Milo's nighttime visitor wasn't some nefarious figure out to sabotage the Golden Path. He was probably just a confused extra who wandered off set. Right, Milo said, straightening up and trying to inject authority into his voice. Well, carry on then. Break a leg or whatever it is PAs do. The PA gave him a withering look. We do everything. Milo bared his teeth, then withdrew, while the PA scurried off to herd a flock of fedora-wearing sheep. Now, Poppy said, steering Milo back toward the exit. Can we please focus on your movie? The one you're actually making? Auditions start in... She checked her watch. 22 minutes, and you still look like something the prop department dredged up for a zombie flick. That doesn't sound too bad, Milo said. A remake, Not even an original." "Yeesh," Milo said. "Now get yourself a shower. You have 30 minutes to look more like a director and less like a screenwriter." Milo nodded, his neck popping louder than Poppy's bubbles. Together they returned to the cottage, and Milo attempted a hasty ablution in his tiny excuse for a bathroom, splashing water on his face from the sink that looked like it had been designed for a dollhouse that was going through a minimalist phase. The mirror, spotted with age and what he hoped was just water damage, reflected back a man who'd clearly been promoted from possibly deceased to recently revived, but was still waiting on the paperwork to clear. Poppy was at her desk, surrounded by headshots. "All right, we'll start with the most promising auditions and work our way down to possible if we squint and use a lot of soft focus." "Sounds optimistic," Milo said. "Doesn't it?" Poppy said. A minute later the door opened, and Ava entered with a tray of coffee, looking perky enough to shoot a shampoo commercial. "Am I interrupting?" "Right on time." Poppy's tone suggested this was a grievous character flaw. Ava smiled, handed on coffee, then settled in. And shortly after actors began to arrive. Unlike yesterday's geriatric parade, this group, at the very least, seemed to be in the correct age range for the appropriate parts. The willowy blonde glided in like a pre-Raphaelite painting that had escaped the museum and decided to try its luck in Hollywood. The brooding young man followed, his artfully tousled hair and 5 o'clock shadow suggesting he'd studied at the James Dean School of looking troubled while ordering coffee. The Andy Warhol lookalike came complete with a silver wig that looked suspiciously like it had been made from leftover tinsel from last year's studio Christmas party. Milo felt a spark of hope. This was more like it. Maybe the Golden Path wouldn't be a total disaster after all. The day unfolded in a blur of monologues, cold reads, and increasingly desperate attempts by Milo to coax something resembling emotion from people who seemed to think acting meant speaking slightly louder than normal. A few actors displayed genuine promise, breathing minimal life into the script. But for every diamond in the rough, there were a dozen lumps of coal who could make a cardboard cutout look like Daniel Day-Lewis. Even Ava had begun to fade, her voice taking on a monotone to match what she was being given. And then the door opened, and in walked the ideal of a leading man, as if Mount Olympus had decided to diversify into talent management. Chiseled jawline? Check. Piercing eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages and the mischief of a schoolboy who'd gotten away with something? Check. Hair that looked like Zeus's personal stylist had taken one look at their finest work and wept. Double check with a side of divine intervention. "Hi," said the Adonis. "I'm here to audition for Jack." Milo forced a smile. "Let's hear it." The actor, whose name was Owen Steele, because of course it was, cleared his throat and began to speak. "You think I'm crazy, Sarah, and I don't blame you. It's hard enough to believe in something you can't measure or map out. But what if, just what if, I'm right? What if time isn't a straight road but a looping, winding thing that lets you see the past, touch it, feel it? What if it's not a glitch or a mistake? What if it's a gift? The world's full of mysteries, Sarah. Always has been. We're so busy trying to explain everything that we forget how to see it. To really see it. The voices, the places, the moments. They don't just vanish. They're still out there, waiting for someone to notice, someone to listen. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm just saying maybe the universe has more heart, more soul, more magic than we give it credit for. And maybe, just maybe, we're the ones to remind everybody there's still room for wonder in this world. The room was silent when he finished, except for the soft pop of you-know-who's gum. Milo forgot to breathe. Even Ava threw him an oversized grin, although Milo was certain Owen's flashing blue eyes contributed to that. "That was... wow," Milo said, eloquence abandoning him entirely. "Thanks." Owen beamed, and Milo was pretty sure he heard angels sing. "I really connected with the material. Jack's struggle with time and memory, his desire to change the past while fearing for the future. It's all powerful stuff." Milo nodded enthusiastically, already envisioning his Oscar speech. "I'd like to thank the Academy, in particular Frank Capra." A young woman broke into applause. Milo glanced over at her. "Are you here for auditions?" She shook her head. "Name's Melody, Owen's girlfriend." "She's a makeup artist," he said. "Currently looking for work." "We need a makeup artist," Milo said before his brain could catch up. "Would you like to work for us?" Melody's mouth gaped open. "For reals?" "No, not for reals," Poppy said, stepping forward. "I'm sorry, Melody, but we already have a makeup crew." Melody's shoulders sagged. Milo winced. His enthusiasm had gotten away from him. "I'm sorry. Maybe next time." Owen put his arm around Melody, comforting his girlfriend while walking her to the door. "I'll send you the schedule," Poppy said. "Amen, sister," Owen said. Ava exited behind them. "If that's it for me, I need to get the caffeine pipeline flowing again." "Thanks, Ava," Milo said. Seconds later, it was just Milo and Poppy. "Well," Poppy said, "I think we can safely say we've found our Jack." Milo nodded, still starry-eyed. "Owen was incredible. He just got it? Without me having to explain anything?" "Mm-hmm. And for the supporting roles." Poppy held up a headshot. The man had a chiseled jaw and dead eyes. "How about him for Mr. Timewinder?" Milo winced. "Mr. I'll give you 2 emotions, stoic and slightly less stoic. Pass." "What about him?" Poppy waved another photo. "Accent guy." "Please, no." Milo shook his head with a groan. "I still can't figure out what country he was supposed to be from." "I think all of them," Poppy said. They went back and forth, weighing pros and cons until they had a solid cast list. And finally, Milo felt a surge of excitement. This was really happening. The Golden Path was coming to life. Poppy gathered her things to leave, i.e., her gum. "Location got back to me with 4 potential sites for us to look at. We should check them out first thing tomorrow." "Sounds good." Milo nodded, imagining Jack stumbling through a fog-shrouded forest, with the Golden Path shimmering just out of reach. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. "Try not to let the couch eat you alive tonight, and don't go chasing any more fedoras." "I won't," Milo said. Poppy closed the door behind her, and a moment later he heard the click of the lock. Milo walked to the window, watching her leave. The Maltese fedora was wrapping for the day as well. Trench-coat-clad fedoras milled around the parking lot. He scanned the crowd, half expecting to see his nighttime visitor, but no one stood out. No one looked back at him with knowing eyes or ducked suspiciously into the shadows. As the last of the fedora brigade disappeared into the night, Milo felt a mix of relief and disappointment. Part of him had hoped for another glimpse, a chance to unravel the mystery, because he couldn't help but think he hadn't seen the last of his nemesis. After all, reality and illusion lived on 2 sides of a celluloid strip.